Hudson County View live and uncut. I'm the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, your host, John R. Hydus, and of course we're going to talk about the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. So, we have quite a few things to discuss this week. First, out of the Peninsula City, there is an explosive lawsuit that's been filed by their business administrator, Melissa Mathews, alleging gender discrimination, and she also makes some claims in there that there were instances, improprieties of abuse of office and other misconduct reported and ignored by the administration. So we're going to see what happens there. We're going to tell you all about that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you read it before the holiday, but nevertheless, I'm going to clue you in on what's going on there. We're also going to talk about what's going on in the Mile Square City. Of course, that's Hoboken. We're going to talk what's going on with a resolution focused on a flyer back in 2017, commonly referred to as the terrorist or terrorism flyer, because it said, "Don't let terrorism take over our town," and featured a photo of then Councilman at large Ravi Bala. This is something that hasn't been talked about much in recent years, but has gained some steam in the past few weeks because of now a state investigation into Edison, where a similar flyer was sent out during that same election cycle. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about their preliminary budget, as well as a redeveloper agreement in their North End. Furthermore, today I'm fortunate to be joined by Jersey City Ward C Councilman Boggiano, so certainly there's no shortage of topics there. We're going to discuss school funding, his run for re-election with Mayor Stephen Fulop, and a whole lot more. But right now we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John R. Hydus. And as I just mentioned today, I'm joined with Jersey City Ward C Councilman Boggiano. Councilman, thanks for coming in. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
So let's go rewind to last week if we could for a moment, and let's talk about school funding. Obviously, there's been talk about the council meeting with the Board of Education, the meeting of the minds, I called it, and many others, and the trustees and the council members talking about how you could make up these catastrophic deficits that they've been facing for many, many years now. So I just wanted to hear what's your take on the matter, and how do you think that we could get the ball moving to make this equitable for everyone in Jersey City?
Well, first of all, we're forming 3 different committees: a finance committee, which will look into the finances of the Board of Education, and 2 other committees which Joyce is going to set up. And we're going to continue working with the Board of Education and solve this problem. This problem's been going on for 50 years, and it has to stop. Musab Ali is a good leader, and I think Musab will listen, and I think we'll be able to work it out. And once Joyce forms these committees, the 3 different committees, I think we're going to make some progress. And my thing is, though, and I told them at the meeting, we have to go after the state. We're our state representatives. They should be more vocal and more outreaching to fund the school board. The state has cut back so much money, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, as you're well aware, there's a projected loss from the state next year of $100 million. I mean, we don't know what they're going to do, but it was 71 this year, and that was, significantly up from the year before. I believe it was about 50.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is a trend going in the wrong direction for the public schools. So what do you think lobbying the state looks like in this situation? How would you approach that?
At the state, I'd get we're going to have a political action committee, get a hold of our representatives, sit down with them, and say, look, let's stop the talk, let's get it done. Go to Trenton and let's talk about this and get some action. Because more money has to come from Trenton. They've cut back in there. Remember when the state took over the Board of Ed?
Yeah.
It was, they were probably the worst of all. Then they turned it back over to the city, and little by little we've been getting our funding cut. And the governor has to realize, and the state representatives have to realize, this is a major city. We're probably #1 city in the state, probably bigger. We are bigger than Newark. So start taking care of our people, start taking care of the children here in Jersey City, because education is one of the most important assets you can have when you educate the children.
So on that point, and I spoke with this about your colleague Denise Ridley last week, there was some parents, some school teachers that called in to the most recent council meeting, and they didn't want the Liberty Science Center high school plan because of what the challenges happening within the public school district. So why did you think that this was a good project to move forward?
I'll tell you why. I grew up in Manhattan, and I graduated grammar school. And the #1 school in the city of New York was Bronx High School of Science. And all of us wish we could have gone there, but we couldn't. And I said why I voted for it was, maybe this could become the Bronx High School of Science like in New York. We could have a school that could be really fantastic for the children. And they say 60% of the kids are going to come from Jersey City. The other thing is the county has to assume more of the obligation and responsibility and the other towns. But think about it, and anybody who knows anything about the Bronx High School of Science knows it's probably one of the best science schools in the United States, and I think our school can be #1.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Now, let's talk about your re-election. So obviously you're coming towards the end of a second term. You won as an independent in 2013 and 2017, successful in 2 runoffs. And this time around you announced in conjunction with Mayor Fulop's campaign at the end of last year that you were going to be working together, you were going to be part of the ticket. And that was surprising to some people. Obviously you and the mayor certainly, you could say, traded some punches over the years, right? But now you've had this meeting of the mind. So how did you get to that place? And
Well, first of all, I'm still independent in my own mind, okay? My own way. The mayor has changed, and the mayor now has come to realize a lot of things in the city have to be taken care of. And I went to him with several issues, and he agreed with me, and he worked with me to do these. And I said to myself, now let's work together for the next 4 years, and I like Journal Square, and so all these projects, the museum, and different things that have to come about. Let's work together and get these projects done and solved.
all right, so now obviously you have 2 people currently announced to be running against you, and they've both said, whether it be to me, other media outlets, or on social media, that Journal Square Ward C is becoming more progressive, and they feel like your voice on the council has been too conservative, too far to the right. So what do you think of those criticisms?
I don't know where they come up with this here. I'm a people person. All they have to do is look at my history over the last 40 years. The Jersey Journal had, at one time, Peter Weiss told me, he said, Richie, you'll publish more in the Jersey Journal than any mayor previously. I was always fighting for the community, fighting for the people. I do things now. I don't go on Facebook, putting everything on Facebook. I'm starting now because, I have to. But I do things quietly and silently. I help the seniors. I help the kids. I'm very pro-school. And I'm very pro-neighborhood. I want to see the community, like our communities of 1 and 2 family homes stay in existence. At the rate we're going, they're disappearing fast, especially in Ward C. The 2060 plan, as far as I'm concerned, was a disaster for Jersey City.
Thank you, Councilman. Perfect timing, because we actually have to hear a word from our sponsors, but we'll be right back.
Cutting-edge surgical care is right here in Secaucus.
Robotic surgery is safer.
Shorter hospital stays.
Smaller abdominal incisions, the size of an M&M. Here at Hudson Regional, we provide world-class robotic surgical care.
Good Friend Self Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View live at Uncut. John Arhitis, and still here with Jersey City Ward C Councilman Rich Boggiano. So, Councilman, on this whole thing about perhaps you being too conservative, according to your opponents, both have talked at length about what happened when you guys voted on a resolution on the council about this, what has been deemed an insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. You abstained. You said that didn't fit within the purview of the city council. They said we need to take a stand on that kind of stuff. What's your reaction?
First of all, I don't know what they're talking about, okay? What they were talking about was going after the President of the United States. He had 10 days left to serve, and it was over, finished. Why is Jersey City getting involved in federal politics when in 10 days the whole issue is dead? And what happened in the Capitol, as a former police officer, I thought it was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace, especially to invade the offices there, and it was wrong. So I don't know where they're coming from about being conservative. But that issue had 10 days, it's over, and it's been dead since he left office.
So you just felt like it was time to move on.
Right, it's time to move on. And you know something I was told 2 days later, Biden said the same thing I said, basically. So, what are you talking about?
Fair enough then. So let's move on. Let's talk about the reservoir project, right? We've heard from some community leaders and some residents who feel like, this was basically rammed down their throats. I don't think they use that exact phrase, but something close to it. They said they didn't agree with the plan. They felt like it was just being fast-tracked. They didn't like it. So could you tell us where the administration is on that, and where do you stand on that?
First of all, I've had several meetings with Sarah and their group, and they're getting mostly everything they desire. And I agree with them on a lot of issues, like I don't want to see big trees cut down. I don't want to see any of the forest area there destroyed. I don't want to see the pathway too large. And Sarah and her group and Laura Scola have been fantastic. And nothing's going to be destroyed. That place has to stay like it is. It's a wildlife. It's a sanctuary. The big issue was the lighting, and the group has solved the issue with lighting with Vernon at the mayor's office. And I think now everything is going to go along well. And they have 2 years now to work up other plans. There's a few other issues they want solved over the next couple of years. But I do not want to see any of that area of the reservoir destroyed. It's a shame we lost the other reservoir. I don't know if you remember it. We had the other reservoir where the firehouse is on College Street and everything. That reservoir was beautiful. So we have something here that's really, really nice. Let's keep it, let's preserve it, and let the kids fish and have boats there and enjoy it.
So you think this is coming before the council anytime soon?
It's already. I understand they started work the other day, and I'm going to keep an eye on it. I know, Sarah, she's from the Reservoir 3 Alliance.
Yes.
She's very good, and I'm sure she's going to keep on top of it. And so will I, and so will a couple other people I know that work there.
Very good. Now, Councilman, I know that an issue is near and dear to your heart is our first responders, being a retired police detective, of course. Now, there's a new database that was crafted through the New Jersey Attorney General's office, and you could look up any use of force report for any department and supposed to be any officer for a 5-month time frame. So a cursory review of that data shows that the use of force out of Jersey City Police Department is a little disproportionate when you're looking at, use of force against white arrestees versus black arrestees. So I don't know if you've looked into this at all, but what are your feelings on this new database and what the implications may be?
You got to remember who created this data. Was anybody from the police field included in this, or from the prosecutor's office included in this? I mean, if somebody does something wrong, they should pay the price. And it's being a police officer is a tough job, especially in today's world. And I don't think, I haven't read the full report. I heard about it. I'd like to read it, and then I'll make a final judgment. But you have to everything has two sides to it. And I hope to God it's not correct in a lot of what they're saying. But cops, basically today especially, are being very good. They understand you cannot use excessive force. And Jersey City we have very few problems here in Jersey City. compared to the rest of the country. Look at the rest of the country. Jersey City is great.
All right, point taken. Now, when we're talking police transparency, again, last week I spoke with your colleague, Ward 8 Representative Denise Ridley, and she's saying at the next council meeting she'd like to introduce the CCRB ordinance. I know last time that came before the council, you said, I think we should wait and see what they do in Trenton. Do you still feel
You
that
have
way?
to wait because you can't pass anything because you have to have state law first. So anything you pass right now is null and void. When the state passes the issue, then we can sit down here in Jersey City, work it out, and have representatives from all different fields involved in the group that's going to represent the CCRB.
All right, and finally, Councilman, is there anything else you wanted to touch on today before we let you go?
Yeah, well, I'd like to talk. One thing I'd like to see, we're getting Journal Square's coming back. It's really.
I'm sure you want to talk about Lowe's Theater.
Chris Bernardo is great with his unit up there. The Lowe's Theater, thank God, it's been years. Thank God that's finally being done. I want to see the museum. I like to see the museum done. I'd like to see a museum showing the history of Jersey City. You know, we have the greatest history in the United States of America. People don't realize this, but you go back to 1607 and stuff like that, Henry Hudson coming up, Verrazano sailing up the Hudson River in the 1500s. The first settlements were here on this side of the river. And unfortunately, the duel, you know, with Aaron Burr ended New York. Jersey City should have been the great city on the West Bank, but it never did happen. But it's coming about now. And but I want to see a museum. I have a lot of historical items. I want to see a museum, people to come in and see this was Jersey City. This was what it was like in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Because we have the greatest city in the United States. And, you know, and by the way, just to let everybody know, Statue of Liberty is one communipore area in New Jersey City. Ellis Island is two communipore area in New Jersey City. They belong to us, not New York. And I wish we'd get some politicians that would say to New York, get out of there. They belong to us. They're in our land.
Fair point, Councilman. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for joining us
Okay,
today.
good.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
All right, the show's over.
Pinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintoproperties.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John Arhitis. And now we're just going to give a rundown of some of the things that happened in the past week. And there's really been a lot going on. It didn't seem like things slowed down much at all for the Easter holiday, but I'm going to do my best here. So first of all, let's talk about the Peninsula City. Let's talk about this gender discrimination suit filed by Melissa Mathews. So she's their business administrator. She served at the post for just under a year. She started in May 1, 2020. It was a unanimous vote by the City Council, and this was an appointment that was praised by Mayor Jimmy Davis. Well, it looks like the honeymoon didn't last long, to coin a phrase, because now, 1 week ago, she filed an 11-page, six-count lawsuit at Hudson County Superior Court, and she is making some pretty serious allegations. So let's start here. In or about July of 2019, defendant Tim Boyle on multiple occasions questioned plaintiff as to whether she would possess suitable work ethic due to her needing to raise her children. On or about May 20, 2020, defendant Tim Boyle slammed a cane into a wall in an attempt to intimidate plaintiff and proceeded to chastise her for speaking with a staff member who reported to him Thereafter, defendant told plaintiff not to speak with his employees and that it was a freshman mistake. So this is, talking about basically a boys' club, as she told the Jersey Journal, and talking about how basically the culture in City Hall is not conducive for a woman to succeed, regardless of what her post is. And I think that's probably a generous way of saying what the lawsuit has outlined here. And she's being represented by Juan Cervantes, and they named 5 high-ranking officials, including the Law Department Director Jay Coffey, including the former Assistant Business Administrator Mark Bonomo, and a couple others. And she's claiming that Bonomo and Boyle possess a strong dislike and or disrespect of women. He claims that she witnessed Bonomo abusively screaming at a female employee, and also says that he would rarely respond to women, acknowledge women, or even so much as look at women in the eye when talking to them. And furthermore, on Boyle, she says, according to former business administrator Joe DeMarco, Boyle was a misogynist who was known to use the C word in the office, according to this court filing. So again, lots of pretty bold, pretty serious claims. So beyond that, she also makes the allegation that Coffey, when presented with some of these issues with Boyle, he said that it would be in her best interest to have a beer with him and try to work things out, on a one-on-one informal meeting. And, that's again in the lawsuit. And one thing that's interesting about this, it's all interesting, honestly, but one thing that I think may have gotten lost in the shuffle is Cervantes is actually representing a former municipal employee. Her name is Cincere Ross, in an ongoing lawsuit filed in late 2019 that alleges City Hall was a sexually charged, hostile work environment. Of course, that's a direct quote from the lawsuit that is ongoing. And as far as where the city of Bayonne stands, Coffey told me that they have a policy of not discussing ongoing litigation, which is pretty standard among municipalities throughout the state. This is particularly interesting, by the way, because as we've discussed on this program many times over already, Assemblyman Nick Travelati is running off the line against William Sampson IV, and that is the candidate hand-picked by Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis after he had a falling out with Travelati over events that still remain unclear. I would say we're getting on 5, maybe even 6 weeks later. So it looks like the Peninsula City is going to be a battleground this primary, the June 8th election. So, clearly we're going to give you the updates there as they come along. So having said that, I'm actually going to move to the Mile Square City now, Hoboken. And let's talk about, speaking of unexpected, let's talk about this appeal that was filed in December 2019 regarding the vote-by-mail fraud case of Frank Raia. Well, the U.S. Attorney's Office filed this after he was convicted of VBM fraud in the summer of 2019. He was sentenced in December of that year, and then just a short time later, the filing from the federal authorities came saying that the sentencing guidelines were not filed. Now, as a result of this conviction, a federal grand jury conviction, Raya had a maximum sentence possible of 5 years and a $250,000 fine. As it turned out, he only got a 3-month sentence and a $50,000 fine, and he actually only served 9 months in prison and then had 3 weeks on house arrest due to COVID-19 concerns. So with all that in mind, he is going to be sentenced again. This is a decision here based out of U.S. Court of Appeals for the 3rd District. So let me read you a little bit of that decision, which was from Chief Judge D. Brooks Smith. And this decision actually came out Wednesday evening, and we reported on it yesterday. So the district court committed multiple errors in the calculation of the guidelines offense level that normally warranted a remand for resentencing. Yet Raya submits that any errors committed by the district court are harmless in light of the 3-month sentence imposed. In other words, the guidelines did not inform the district court sentence at all because the court deemed them to be too punitive. So, really just fascinating. I personally, perhaps, some of us could speak about this in more detail offline, but I had no idea that this appeal was still applicable after the sentence had already been served. So it was really a shock when I caught wind of this, I guess I should say. So he was sentenced by U.S. District Court Judge William J. Martini, and he submitted a lenient sentence at the end of 2019 due to lingering health issues. And there were also, if you recall, 140 letters submitted to the court, approximately, speaking of Raya's contributions to the community. But with all that said, it looks like we're going to do it again, at least the sentencing part. The district court made errors in its interpretation of the guidelines that affect the calculation of Raya's offense level. Raya has not met his heavy burden to show that these errors are harmless. We will vacate Raya's sentence and remand to the court for resentencing. With that, we're just going to take one more quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut. And we also want to talk about what happened at last night's Hoboken Council meeting. So it was another long one. I mean, they always seem to be long, right? I mean, a minimum of 3 hours, sometimes 5+. This was about 4. So 3 things that I want to talk about. And one, we talked about the amended North End redeveloper agreement. So what does that mean? That's actually the plan where they would put a new DPW garage at approximately 1500 Clinton Street. Now, last week, if you were paying attention on Good Friday, there was something put out by Bijou Properties, and they proposed this, of course, being the DPW garage. They talked about City Hall Annex, which would be a place where they could have an OEM headquarters. They also talked about a mixed-use development project. So with all that in mind, we heard a lot of consternation, a lot of hesitancy from some council members over the past few days. And then as it turned out, we ended up getting a redeveloper agreement that didn't really touch on this development aspect. It really just designated Bijou Properties as the redeveloper. So let me just explain that a little more. So I guess really the best way to sum it up is Community Development Director Chris Brown said this: "We've stripped out all mention of a project and proposed architectural plans." Now, despite that fact, Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher said this wasn't good enough. She said, "If we approve this tonight, we are saying to the mayor and the administration, do not consider any other alternatives." And she also cited a letter from Mayor Ravi Bala that was sent to the council right before that indicated Bijou Properties was the only interested party. She continued, "It's the worst possible deal for Hoboken. The deal literally could not be any worse." So basically, we're running a little short, so I'm just going to cut to the chase. The council approved the project via 7-1, with Fisher voting no, 6th Ward Councilwoman Jen Giattino absent. Now, they also approved the preliminary budget. That spending plan is about $118 million, including all local expenditures. However, it's about a $125 million budget when you look at the state and federal allocations. They're using about $7 million of the $27 million they use from the American Rescue Plan. And this was approved unanimously, 8-0. Again, Giattino was absent. And finally, I mentioned at the top of the program about this racist flyer. Interestingly, 5th Ward Councilman Phil Cohen said, "I can't support this resolution tonight. I don't think it solves any problem. I don't think it helps any investigation." And, of course, that's just a brief excerpt, but we heard from the sponsor of this resolution, who was Fisher, and she said all this says is we have 2 elected officials that both were personally harmed in that election, and it's meant to be handed up to the State Attorney General's office, the Hudson County Prosecutor's office, with the support of Police Chief Kenneth Ferrante. Ultimately, it passed 7-1. Cohen was the lone no vote. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. I'll catch you next week.